right. Mr. Mayor, we now have a quorum.
Great. I will call to order the Pickering School Building Committee. Roll call, please.
All right, Mayor Nicholson,
Present.
Dr. Alvarez,
Present.
Mr. Bertino, Member Castellanos,
Present.
Councilor Chakoudas, Mr. Donovan,
Present.
Ms. Drago,
Present.
Member Gately, Ms. Gerardo, Mr. Kolokitis, Councilor LaPierre, I can see him. We'll register that as a present.
Present.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Makua,
Present.
Mr. Mannion, Mr. Marlin,
Present.
Mayor McGee,
Present.
Councilor Meany, Ms. Ridley,
Present.
Mr. Ridley, sorry, Ms. Miller, Ms. Ruggiero,
Present.
Mr. Smart.
Present.
Thank you. And then I do see that Renee Philbrook is in the meeting. So now might be a good time to introduce her to any committee members who don't know her. Or Renee.
Deputy Superintendent, would you want to, or Dr. Alvarez, do you want to just make an?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is Yvonne. I just wanted to welcome Renee Philbrook, our new principal for Pickering Middle, to this group. And certainly exciting that she'll be a part of the project from here to when it actually becomes materializes into the actual building. So Renee, welcome to this group. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you very much.
And so Renee, tonight you're not a voting member, but we're going to get your name over to the MSBA. And once they review and give us the thumbs up, then we'll add you to the voting roster.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez, and welcome, Renee. Congratulations.
All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So going through the agenda quickly, tonight we don't have a design update. So we'll go through our administrative actions, meeting minutes, and a budget update. As I was mentioning, we don't have a design update for you. However, we'll do a procurement update and construction update. There is a challenging condition that was discovered last week on the site, and the project team's been working hard to resolve it. So we'll talk more about that in the construction update. And then also we'll do our project schedule. And then when we get down to our meeting schedule, we are proposing an additional meeting or special meeting on Wednesday, January 29th. So the SBC doesn't have to complete the conversation we're going to have tonight. So the SBC doesn't have to wait until the next whole month to hear sort of the resolution. So we'll get into that, and then we can close out with any questions you have. But for now, the first item is the December 18th meeting minutes, which were in the packet we sent around yesterday.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Lynn, would you please walk us through the budget update?
Yes, so we have committed 34% of the budget and have expended 14% to date. This indicates the bid phase is approximately 90% complete. However, we did receive bids on Friday that we are working through. So we could essentially call that 90% complete as of right now, but as of the end of December, we were at 90%. In terms of our cash flow, We had projected to be around a $40 million expenditure, and we actually, to date, are at 24 million. And this has to do a bit with the extended start of construction and the long time for soils disposal and the issue that we're dealing with today that we'll talk about later.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
So we have completed both the trade contractor and non-trade subcontractor bids as of Tuesday. I know Consigli is still working through the subcontractor bids and vetting those out. We did receive the trade contractor bids. They initially came in under the expected amount. And I do think they'll still stay under this expected amount, but we have had some various issues to deal with, which I think we'll talk about under the procurement update. We are still projecting to have a GMP to review by the next SBC meeting in February.
Thanks, Lynn. And so building on what you just reported, so we did receive 72 bids, which includes multiple bids for all of the 15 trades that were solicited in bid package 4. Leftfield is going through and reviewing those right now for completeness. We did electronic bidding on Project Dog. It's a website. There were 2 categories that for which we had fewer than 3 bids. And in both cases, so it was masonry and roofing and flashing, in both cases, the lowest bid came in above the estimated cost for the work. So as in accordance with Chapter 149A, Consigli is going to attempt to negotiate an acceptable price from the lowest pre-qualified bidder. If they're unable to do that, then we'll move on to the second lowest. And if not, then the project can solicit additional bids from non-trade subcontractors. So that's just for 2 out of the 15. So we're going to work through that process. And as Lynn was mentioning, we've received word, unofficial word from one of the low bidders that they want to withdraw their bid, but we're awaiting the formal letter before we take any action. And then also there are 2 bidders who have said they're considering filing a protest, but again, there's nothing official. We're waiting for them to give a formal notification of that.
One of those is electrical, and the other is in resilient flooring.
So we'll see what becomes of, any withdrawals or bid protests once they're official. But for now, the procurement process remains on schedule to have the draft GMP by mid-February. Does anybody have any questions about that? Fantastic. All right, so now we'll turn things over to Brandon to give us a construction update.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So it's been alluded to a couple times, and last month we came here, we talked about schedule, we talked about milestones, and the next activity we had is a project that was going to hit was the ground improvement install. So we did mobilize ground improvements the week before Christmas, installed about 420 shallow slab wraps that are about 7 to 10 feet deep throughout the full footprint of the building. That rig sat through the holidays while the crew was off. We started again just after the holidays on the 6th with a test. On the 7th, we began the install of some of our deeper elements at the exterior foundation wall closest to the existing school. We did about 42 elements on that Tuesday. At the end of the day, we found out from Laura and through the school that they were having some visible cracks in walls and some issues with some doors working. So we stopped that work immediately. The next day, we brought in the geotech engineer, the structural engineer from the project. We walked the existing building, make sure that everything was safe. They did get the all clear from the structural engineer. That appeared to be cosmetic. Does not look like any structural damage was caused, but it appeared that there were some issues with the vibration from the deeper rig that may be doing something with the native soils around the building and the vibrations of that rig that caused some issues in the existing Sisson school. So Right now, we've paused the install of the ground improvements due to this. The design team is working through some alternate paths with the goal of not causing any further damage to that existing building, while making sure that we can also safely install on the site with whatever that alternate solution is going to be. They plan to have some sort of solution tomorrow that we're going to work through with the entire project team, our subcontractors that are involved, so we can start looking at what that alternate pathway is. And at that point, we can start looking at what the overall schedule is going to look like and how that shifts and what we can do to try and get back on track. But that is the big thing that everyone's alluded to a little bit here. So if there are any questions on that before I get through the rest of the update, might be a good time to take those.
Brother, just one question. Are you, on your side, are you planning on putting any instruments in place to measure the current condition in the future if it happened again?
Yeah, so we do have multiple means of measuring in place. So we did have points set on the existing building.
Yep.
We've brought a surveyor in to come and track. So we had been doing it monthly. We've come in and checked it more frequently afterwards to make sure that the existing structure did not move.
Sure.
We do have monitoring points on our SOE, the
Right.
sheets. So we check that every single day. We have confirmed that there's been no more movement since that day, based on the data that we are pulling from the sheets. So we are tracking it, making sure that nothing is moving any further.
What about from the neighbor's point of view? We have some property adjacent on the south side of the building. I think it's like 4 to 5 houses there. Are we monitoring their basement or structure or foundations at all?
So we don't have any particular monitoring points for any of the neighbors. We
Yeah.
did offer those inspections before the project. So if anyone thought they saw any damage, that would be, they do have all those reports that if they did accept an inspection, we'd be able to go through and see if it was caused by this or not. So, but
Okay.
we do not
And
have
it,
any.
it
monitoring on
appears
that.
to just be adjacent to the area right by the Sisson Elementary School, so that's quite a
On the north
distance
side.
from
Right on the-
influence
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, right on the
Yeah.
west side we were very close. It was the closest ground improvements to that SOE, which is about 15 feet away from the existing building. So
Okay.
that's why we think we saw what we did.
Okay.
And the goal is to minimize what we can so that as we continue across the north side and down the east,
Mhm.
we don't want to recreate any of what we've already seen for the existing building or for any of the abutters. So that's why we've taken this pause to make sure we do the best thing for everyone around moving forward.
Good. Thank you.
Lori.
I see, Member Gately has her hand up.
Yes, I have the same question as I want to piggyback on his statement, and I was curious, Lynn, if anyone contacted you from the abutters, like on Canomo Ave or on Magnolia, about any kind of damage to their properties?
We've received no contact as of today.
Okay, I was just checking because I know they have your number. If there's any concerns, if anything happened, I would think that it would have gone through them. But I didn't want to call people to say, hey, how's your house looking? Because I think that would be like an alarmist thing. All right, thank you very much.
Great, Mayor McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. So is that the closest point for any of the work that will be going on related to the foundation of the working with the soil? Following up on those other questions, I'm looking at the green line there. It seems like the closest points for any of the project really sit right next to the Sisson building. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And that's where you're seeing some of the issues. So thanks. So you've identified that the structure it's just it's nothing structural. It's just is it easily remediated, and then we'll hear from you what the next steps would be to try and minimize or eliminate any of the kind of response to the to the machine work that's going on there. When you said tomorrow will be the opportunity to get a chance to see that information?
Yeah, so tomorrow we are getting some information from the design team. We're gonna digest that in a meeting with all our subcontractors that are doing the work. Make sure that everyone's on the same page. There might be a few more days of working through iterations or answering questions and really coming up with our plan. But I know Lynn and Craig alluded to 2 weeks from now, coming back to this group with what that full plan is. Hopefully we've begun work already again with the review with Mike and Laura from the city. And then we'll know kind of big picture, where does this put us now that we have been down for about a week now? Where does that put us and what can we do to get back on track? So we should know more tomorrow based on what the design team's alternate pathway is.
I just have one point. That's great. I think that we're meeting in a couple of weeks to continue to follow up on this, and you'll be able to inform the committee on that work. The key is we want to get this right. So I know there's been a bit of a delay here, and in the middle of winter, is there going to be concrete that's poured? I mean, are there some things that maybe would reflect an additional period of time to make sure that we get it right? And I think the priority is recognizing this is about to happen. Once construction happens, things happen, but understanding that we want to get this right over time. So obviously, time is money, but the end result is the key. So I'm glad we're getting together on the 29th. I just put that out there because I know we're in the middle of winter, and that also is a different kind of construction period, particularly with pouring concrete. So I would think making sure if there's a little bit more delay to get to where we need to be, that's an important discussion to have, so that we're again going to get this right. In recognizing that we were going to face putting these buildings in close proximity in cities like Lynn reflect challenges, but we're excited about moving forward, and we want to make sure we do it right. So I just bring up that point with, once this is resolved, is there other construction issues that might reflect a little bit of a wait just because of the timing season wise?
We do have a plan for the winter concrete. We were always planning to be in the winter with those activities, so it does adjust what we do, but our most recent schedule update last month did account for doing these activities in the winter because we were going to start tomorrow. So you're right, it does change a little bit of what you do and how you do it. It's more prep, but we do have the dollars and cents in the budget to do what we need to do for winter concrete, and we have sat with our subcontractor to really iron out that sequence and take out any sort of variables that we can. So once we are able to start, we feel confident we can keep going. The weather is the one thing we can't control, right? But we do have a plan to work around whatever we possibly can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I just want to say to the committee that clearly this is not the news we wanted to hear tonight, but I want to thank the project team for identifying the issue and jumping on it, and that includes the LPS team that helped us identify the issue and have helped us remediate it. The staff administration at Sisson and Pickering and the district, as well as the entire project team. It's frustrating to have these unforeseen events, but we have the right team to make sure that we come up with a plan to address them. And to Mayor McGee's point, we want to make sure that we address them thoroughly and accurately for the long-term success of this project. This is a building that is going to be here for a very long time, and I know that everyone on this committee wants to get it right. And so appreciate everyone taking this really seriously and jumping on it and making the adjustments we need to make for that to continue to be the case. So thank you.
All right, so Craig, we'll keep moving through this presentation. These are the same logistics plans that we've been showing. So this is what you're going to start to see as we get through this roadblock into the next scopes of work, moving through our structure, and we finally all get to watch this come out of the ground that we are all eagerly awaiting. The next, Craig, I believe, is the drone video, progress photos, my apologies. So on the left here, you see our dewatering setup. So we got this ready to go, winterized, so that we could start after the ground improvements were complete, prepping for foundations to start. So we do have that up and running, ready to go for when we do need it. On the right, you see some underground utilities. We are continuing to do everything we can on site while we work through this roadblock, continuing with underground structures and piping. Next slide. And here are a couple shots of, on the left is what we call the modulus test. So after you install some of the ground improvements, you need to do a test on them, ensure that you're getting the sort of bearing capacity that you're expecting. So that's what we did on Monday the 6th on one of those slab wraps that was installed prior to the holidays. And then the picture on the right is that rig that was here. That's essentially the exact point where you're the closest to the existing school where we saw the issues with the vibration. So as we said earlier, all that work that is the closest it could possibly be was what we tackled first. We are now only going to be working further away from that building and all the other structures because that was our pinch point. So moving forward, we should be getting away from structures.
Okay.
All right, I will share the drone video.
Let's say you could share.
Can everyone see this now?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
no, not yet.
Negative.
All right, here we go. So this was shot on Monday, so tough to see some things because of that lovely winter weather that we had earlier over the weekend. You can see here we're continuing with the installation of underground utilities. This is a water line as it's close to that MWRA easement. So we are keeping the communication with the MWRA, making sure they're happy with what's being done around and through their easement so far. They have been happy with everything we're doing. You can see the rig for the ground improvements still sitting in the building footprint. So while we have this up, what we did was the shallow wraps are throughout this entire footprint spaced out, and they're about 10 foot deep, and that's the 420 or so that we already did. And then we were working as a team starting here, and we're gonna work our way east, and then we'd start our concrete and follow right behind. So once we have that alternate path, that is still the goal. So work our way in this way through the large retaining walls that you'll see go in that are the building foundation, and then work our way out towards the easement and what will be the front of the new building. All right, I'll stop sharing this. Greg, all you.
Hold on one second. I lost that little screen there.
Brandon, just curious, when you're dewatering, what do you guys plan on dumping on water?
So we have those 2 tanks to take the sediment, obviously get rid of anything that's in there. And then Lynn Water and Sewer has been involved with allowing us a discharge permit to the city.
Okay.
We have a testing program that's going on through Monadnock, who is the on-site LSP, ensuring there's nothing in that water that would be a problem. So they're taking weekly samples, and Lynn Water and Sewer requires a monthly submission. So we'll stay on top of that paperwork as we are pulling stuff from the site.
How's the volume so far?
We haven't really gotten into it yet.
Oh, okay.
We have it set up. We haven't started to pull water just because we were holding off until those couple days before we actually start excavating the bottom of
Sure.
footing. So we're not really sure what we're going to see quite yet, but we should know once we get into it.
Thanks.
Can you all see my screen again?
Yes.
Great.
So this was one of the slides we put together last month, just showing what's been completed to date, upcoming. So we had started rammed aggregate piers that were close during the last meeting. That's where we're having this roadblock. So next steps would be footing prep to get to concrete foundations. Next slide, Craig. this is the milestone schedule that we all talked about. So we're going to miss that start of foundations tomorrow, the 16th. Right now, like I said, we're not sure when that new date is going to be, so I can't really give any solid answers on what that push or impact is going to look like. We are still holding our structural steel sub to that 3/12 date. The goal is to find a way to make some sort of magic happen between now and then. We're not telling them that there's any sort of change in the schedule because we still want them to be ready in hopes of getting back on track for that date.
So just quickly, we haven't changed this overall project schedule yet because, as Brandon said, we're hoping to find a way to get back on schedule in order to be able to deliver in January. And it really depends on what the final solution is and how quick we get to a full consensus of that solution. That will determine if we can still deliver by the beginning of January. But we should know full impact by the next meeting.
Speaking of the next meeting, so earlier this month, Left Field sent a batch of calendar invitations that'll bring us through June with our regular SBC meetings, the sort of once a month meetings. Of course, that might change. We need to add a meeting here or there. So we're proposing January 29th, we reconvene this group for a special meeting. So what I'll do is, if that's acceptable, I'll send that an invitation around. We'll see who's available by response to the invite. And if we think that we'll have a quorum, great. If not, we can try another day. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Sure.
So then our next regular meeting will be February 12th. We're anticipating that draft GMP sometime in mid-February, and then we've got another meeting in March and April. On the topic of meetings, back in March of 2023, Governor Healy signed an executive order that allowed, it was an extension of the temporary provisions that allows remote public meetings. And that's set to expire March 31st of this year. So I personally have not heard whether anything's going on at the state level for another extension, but the good news is we have 2 more regular meetings before then. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open and then plan a court. So the first meeting that would be affected potentially is the April meeting. And so we'll keep our ears and eyes open. And then if that extension doesn't go through, we'll make plans accordingly. So we can continue having these meetings. Any questions or comments? Great. Just a reminder, we've got our website, we've got our YouTube channel. Tell your friends. And I think that was it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, see everyone in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. And we obviously eagerly look forward to those updates and really appreciate everyone's help.
All right.
Get this going. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good job,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Aye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.